Session 2 of today's forum titled Macroeconomy, Financial Market and FDI, and it consists of 3 presentations. It's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Professor Lilanjak Panik of Mahindra University. He will share macroeconomy and policy in terms of Korea and India cooperation. Please welcome Dr. Lilanjak Panik with a big round of applause.
Thank you, Dr. Cho, for this opportunity. In the interest of time, I will try to be brief and as pointed as possible, okay? So the idea is to give you some understanding of the Indian macroeconomy, okay? And I have lots of data to share, and expectation is you think about those data as we go forward. So if you talk to anyone, what are the few aspects that we know about the Indian economy? The first thing which comes to your mind, it's a very large market, right? So right now we are the 4th largest economy. Someone say 5th, someone say 4th, soon going to be 3rd, So we are approaching $4 trillion US dollars. Now, even if you take into account the debate which is happening with our data, minimum 3.5 trillion is the size of the economy. So that's a large market size. We have a very young population. Young population means in terms of labor force participation. You have many workers available to work. So just to put things into perspective, our median age is only 28 years. Majority of the population, if I look into their age, it is only 28 years. In comparison to South Korea's 45 years, in comparison to China's 40 years, okay? And birth rate is 2.1, which means this thing is going to be there until 2047, okay? Unlike China and South Korea, where the birth rate is also declining. One of the other things which was mentioned earlier is about the digital or the digitization. We have this, what we call the JAM Trinity. So Jan Dhan account, which is trying to give you access to formal banking system, what the government has been pursuing over the last 4 or 5 years. You also have Aadhaar enabled system of giving subsidy so that the poorer people, they actually get access to subsidy. And most importantly, you have mobile/internet banking, which in a way is democratizing our way of doing business. So earlier what used to happen is all the small vendors, all the mom and pop stores, they were not getting access to credit. They were also not getting access to, even if I'm talking about the SME lending, they were not getting access to bank formal credit because they did not used to maintain the book account. Now thanks to the digital payment, because every time you're making payment through UPI or Google or PhonePe, your book of account is getting created. So A, you are getting access to credit, which is almost 10 to 15% less than the informal banking system. And importantly, if I'm talking about agriculture and SME sector, just to put into perspective, there are 400 million people who are still earning their livelihood from the agricultural sector. There are around 200 million people who are employed with the MSME sector. These are micro, small, medium-scale enterprises, okay? So digitization has actually changed the way we are doing business. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the cost of data is 1/60th time than what you get in terms of using data in the developed countries, be it US, 1/60th, 1/60. So that is the access or how the access of doing business is getting generated, okay? So recently we also have had tax rationalization, which is if you look into the GST case has fallen, right? So that has also created demand for lots of consumer durables. But there are some problems. So these are the good things, the first 4 one. The problem is with the unequal income distribution. That is something I'm going to talk about because we all the time mentioning about the K-shaped growth that is happening with the Indian economy. So maybe top 5% of the population are doing extremely well, and these are the people who are actually driving India's growth. But if I'm looking into the overall other 95% of the population, they're not doing at all good, okay? That also explained that why, in spite of having 8.2% GDP growth rate, you still have rupee almost touching 90, okay? In terms of, if I look into the macroeconomics anomaly. And then, of course, you have Mr. Trump, which is explaining much of the global headwind in terms of Trump tariff. So these are the things which I have already mentioned, but the point to note here is, in the interest of time, we are going to see a big increase in the middle income category of people. And the way we are defining middle income, this PLFS stands for Periodic Labor Force Survey. An individual with a monthly income of 25,000. It's not a household income, individual income with a monthly income of 25,000 is considered as a middle income. But that is only the top 10% of the population. So if I look into India's per capita income, which is around $3,000, even now as we speak, we have around 80% of the population with income less than equal to per capita income. So that's the hard reality, okay? Now let's try to understand the good part of the Indian economy. What you see here is when we teach macroeconomics, we have 5 components: consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, government expenditure, export and imports, right? Point to note here is, in case of Indian economy, the consumption expenditure is the most important component, which is explaining close to 60% of our domestic demand. What it means is there is something called multiplier. Multiplier means 1 over MPC. I'm not going to be that technical, but what it means, if you're spending, if government or anyone is spending $100, that is going to create, the size of the multiplier is given the 60% is our consumption expenditure, it turns out to be 2.5, which means that if you're spending $100, that is going to create $250 worth of income. Okay, so that is the best part of the Indian economy. We don't have to depend whether Mr. Trump is imposing tariff. Our economic size and domestic activities are good enough to sustain the economy. That's what is coming from the data. This is the digital part of the economy. That's what I'm saying is how increasingly MSME as well as other sectors are actually helping the digital economy to grow. The other thing is we have around 15 lakhs people who are graduating with engineering degree in the BTech every year. So that's what I'll also explain why India has become the world largest house of global capability centers. Okay, so that is a good thing. And that's also explain how come some people are making tons of money where others are not making. So these are the GCC which are operating in India. We also have this, what we call the production linked incentive scheme, which the government is trying to prop up the manufacturing sector. We are now world largest, second largest exporter of Apple iPhone, just to ensure that we are doing well. Not so great factors in terms of per capita income, although we have graduated to, someone would say now the 4th largest economy, but you can see the only outlier is India in terms of per capita income, okay? This is already, I've said, roughly 1 billion population still live with less than 500 Indian rupee per day, okay? So this is again and this is very interesting. Per capita income, China has made a big jump. It has moved from 158th to 75th position, but India is still struggling if I were to rank India vis-a-vis other country, you know. Human Development Index, we are not doing that great. One of the reasons why we are not doing that great in Human Development Index is because of low female labor force participation. That is there very much in India, okay? I will skip this. Technology, as I said that most of the smart people graduating from IITs or IIMs, they are actually moving out India, you know, and most of the US universities are now being. So that is one of the problem. GDP per hour worked, this is from the ILO data. You will find that India does not figure here because the number for India is only $8. So you can see compared to other countries, we are in terms of technology, productivity we are very low. Institutions, some of the institutions we are not doing great, in particular the court system, the judicial system. You can see from this, High Court and District Court are notorious for this. If you get somewhere caught by the court system, you are doomed for life. Agricultural sector, again, most part, almost 48% of our agricultural system has to depend on rainfall. And therefore, there is always an inverse relationship. During the bad rainfall year, you see number of farm suicide increasing. Here, how US has actually gone from the share of agriculture. It has fallen from 81 to 1.8. In our case also, we are falling, but the problem is you still have many people who are employed with the agricultural sector, unlike the US, okay? So this report, which came 2025, this year, should tell you that about the K-shaped recovery, you know? At the very top, at the ultra high net worth individual, comprising of only 35,000 family, with an average income of 40 crore Indian rupees per year, okay? How we are doing with time? 2 minutes? Okay. And so basically, we fall in this category, some of us, you know, and, or actually fall in this category, most of us. So that is to tell you that how this, the things are impacting